and welcome to Zukast, Pakistan's first podcast on sustainability. We have here with us today Sana Ajmal. Sana, welcome.
Hello Meher and Fiza, how are you? Assalamu alaikum everyone.
Very good, thank you. We're really excited to have you on the show, Sana.
I'm really glad to be here. I'm so honored to be part of such a noble effort.
Thank you. It's a very small effort on our part. Sana, before we start, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background?
So I'm primarily a psychologist. I've studied psychology at the I have a bachelor's in psychology and an MPhil in clinical psychology, and I'm a practicing therapist. So and I'm a Pakistani, someone who cares about the environment, especially because of the alarm bells all around me, feeling like I have no choice. So yeah, that's me.
See, now that's interesting when you mention alarm bells, because that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Like, living here in Pakistan, for us, we are primarily an agrarian society. We need nature. We grow our own crops, whether it's for food or for clothing. We have our rivers. But on the other hand, Sana, we also have a very abusive relationship with nature. And if anything, this pandemic has shown us that as human beings, nature doesn't need us. We need nature, for human development. So is that the only reason we should be respecting the environment? What role does it play for us as humans, given that nowadays people claim that they can do without it, we can survive?
Yeah, Meher, that's an interesting one. You said it yourself. Nature doesn't need us. We need nature. But somehow, I think during the Renaissance, we realized that we don't need nature. And that's where the problem really started for the world, not just Pakistan, I would say. So I would probably, when I critique the last 500 to 600 years or highlight the contribution they've made to the problem, I'm talking about the global, issue of this break we have had from the universe, right? So man's realization of, the anthropomorphism of man in the Renaissance actually led to, I think, this zealous kind of belief in our own abilities to be self-sufficient, without any need of the universe, the heavens. So I think this disconnect from heaven actually has caused, what we're experiencing now, which is destruction. This type of destruction hasn't happened for millennia before the last 500 years. So that's really interesting to note. It's this shift in mindset. I think the materialistic attitude that has resulted from the individualism, which gained popularity during the Renaissance, I would say, has actually led to destruction, resources, abuse of natural resources, things like the Green Revolution, cash crops. So, we don't really see Earth as Mother Earth anymore.
No,
it's more like, a cash cow. Or, it's more like, how can we gain profit from it? How can we derive, resources from it?
Sure.
So it's not about our connection to Earth, but it's more about how Earth is actually something to be exploited.
Absolutely.
And that has come about as a result of modernity, industrialization, and our disconnect with heaven. And by that, I mean tradition, religion, spirituality.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with everything you've said so far, and I think that these are really serious issues, areas of concern.
So, Sana, I wanted to ask you, so sometimes human development and sustainable development, although institutions in their own respect, sometimes it can feel that there is some kind of, just like how you've talked about now, there is some kind of interconnection, but the interdependencies are not super clear. So, for example, I think in Pakistan, for the average person, the main concern is how to provide a living for their family and how to earn, an income. Now, for this person, that's going to be their priority. If they're looking to make sustainable options or live a more sustainable life, sometimes this can come at a higher price, and not everyone can afford this luxury. So what can we do in Pakistan which makes sustainable living at its core and not just accessible to a certain maybe class of people?
Fiza, that's a very, very important question. And I think that's exactly the kind of dilemma that restricts us from actually, addressing the issue of, climate protection. But I think we need to start somewhere. And I think awareness, like we've seen in other countries. So, I think mass education of the need of environmental conservation, environmental protection, and the need for highlighting these issues on a war footing would really make a difference. And then sustainability would follow, because we know the kind of mass production that's rampant these days, or the kind of things that the kind of practices people are following in terms of acquisition of food and resources are definitely not ideal. They're not ideal in the sense that everybody is not being fed. There's still mass hunger. There's still extreme disparity between different socioeconomic classes. So we need to think of other solutions, and I think awareness of the calamity at hand would actually lead to solutions towards sustainability. We can't look for sustainability in the given structure of things. There has to be a mass shift in thinking, which is why I keep stressing the need for emphasizing humanities and social sciences in our universities, in our colleges, so that people can actually become aware of the real issues that are confronting us. Why we believe in certain things, why we practice what we practice, why we eat what we eat. Mm-hmm. And so I think once we become aware of those things, and that's easily done. I mean, online campaigns, TV programs, door to door teams can go and create awareness. So I think creating awareness is key to finding sustainable solutions, and moving towards the other extreme of the curve, because right now we're stretched thin for solutions.
And I think that's such an interesting point you said about teaching it in universities, because I think a lot of the times what we learn from these institutions is we're taught to measure success by numbers and how much income we're bringing in. But if we could change how we measure success as well, I think, like you said before about using almost the planet as a cash cow rather than looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, and not just the abuse of nature. We're as a result abusing each other and ourselves, because we actually have become disconnected from the whole. So where if you look at it as a triad of heaven, earth, and man, right? So it's the heavens send water or sustenance, and the earth, the yin energy of the earth, as if you want to look at it in the yin and yang sense, actually nurtures that sustenance and provides us with food, with sustenance, and then we actually look after each other. Mm-hmm. But when we have the materialistic mindset of, okay, let's just take what we can, then we're actually looking at each other as a resource as well, which is why the term human resource, even though, I mean, on one level it's to actually make people profitable or count for something, but it's still a resource. And till we look at each other as a resource, and everything else around us as a resource, there's going to be rampant abuse. Yeah.
And then moving on to the last question, which is, I think in a country like Pakistan, one way to measure your quality of life is by things that make our life easier, so material possessions. So let's look at how we travel in Pakistan, which is mainly everyone has a car. And I think that's the goal for everyone, is to have a car or some kind of vehicle, because that makes our life easier to get from point A to point B. Now, in terms of human development, that's good because it's giving us freedom of movement. But in terms of sustainable development, it's obviously, we know the impact cars have on the environment. So I know we have had recent investments in public transport in Punjab especially, but what do you think, what can be done more to kind of encourage, with this example, for instance, encourage people to move away from this reliance on cars and think in a different way of how to get around?
Fiza, I'll have to repeat myself here. I think awareness. I mean, there are so many places where people use a bicycle to go around. I do. I know that whenever I need to go till just a few kilometers away, I would rather take out my bike than go in the car. So I think again, awareness about the impending, disaster at hand, and then finding solutions to deal with that, I think would lead to people thinking differently about development, about well-being.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's the narrative we create that.
It's a narrative and it's a mentality, Sana. It's also the cultural context that there's no shame in using public transport. And if you can do it abroad while on holiday, then you can do it locally as well. And I think that's where the real battle lies, the mind, changing the mindset, the mentality. So it's a long haul, but I'm not losing hope. But any last thoughts you'd like to add before we wrap up, Sana?
Meher, as a psychologist, I'd just like to highlight that, the environment is so inextricably linked to our well-being that it's imperative that we make efforts towards doing everything we can to create sustainable, viable, and thoughtful modes of living, and I think COVID has actually, and lockdown and everything has actually given us the opportunity to think about these things. We really, on an individual level, because we're also faced with an emotional pandemic, anxiety, depression, OCD, obsessions and compulsions, they are rampant because of this disconnect from our surroundings, disconnect from each other. And so, that I think we really need to reconsider. And we can take small steps, on a personal level, which is, katra karke darya banta hai. So we could, start composting, separating our trash. We could start, using our car less and maybe walking more or using a bicycle or something more. So I think we just need to really make an effort towards rethinking our lifestyle to look for healthier solutions rather than going to the pill or going to, the vaccine or everything. We need to really strengthen ourselves and look within and find the resources that we have.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think after this session, people will certainly be thinking, because of everything you said matters so much. I'm so grateful and thank you, Sana, for coming on board and saying all these important things. Over to you, Fiza. Any last word?
I think, Sana, because you mentioned awareness a lot, and that in this podcast, from a psychologist's perspective, in one word, what's the best way to raise awareness in people?
What's the best way to raise awareness? I think
education.
One word.
Well, I think this is a cliffhanger.
Maybe,
Sana, maybe you could send in a video or something explaining this further.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Absolutely. Thank you so very much.
Definitely.
Look after yourself, and anybody who is interested, can they reach out to you privately as well if they want to discuss this further?
Yes, sure.
Fantastic.
I can.
We'll put up your post and
send you my email.
Yeah, we'll put that up. Thank you so much, ladies. Until next time, take care. Khuda Hafiz. Bye-bye.
Okay.